is the more accurate comparison to MJ? Is it Steph or LeBron?
It's LeBron. And it's LeBron because when we think of Michael Jordan, we think generation. We think something that we've never seen before. And I know you can attribute that to Steph Curry's shooting ability. But outside of that, when you look at LeBron James and what he's done over the course of his career, let me remind everybody. LeBron James entered the NBA at 18 years old and went to a city that he was from, went to a state that he was from, and was asked to be the face of the franchise day one walking into the building. That's something even Mike didn't have to do immediately in Chicago. And then when you talk about the ability not only to stay relevant, continue to get better, but also stay clean throughout the duration of his career. I'm talking about off the basketball court. You talk about a generational impact that LeBron has made. There is a generation of guys right now, of young men and young women that will forever be associated and tied NBA-wise to LeBron James. Now, everybody can't be 6'8", 250, and everybody doesn't have the physical attributes that LeBron has. But when we start flinging that word greatness around, and you can absolutely shoot that over to Stephen Curry. I've heard Stephen A. sit here and say he's number 2 ever to play in the NBA behind Michael Jordan because that's Stephen A's list. And he deserves to be on the Mount Rushmore of NBA players. Now, let me remind everybody the Mount Rushmore of NBA players. In order to put LeBron on there, you got to take somebody off. So who is it? Kareem? Is it Bill Russell? Is it Wilt Chamberlain? Is it Kobe? So the fact that we have LeBron James and Michael Jordan, and when we have this conversation, and a lot of people don't want to admit it, there is so much legitimacy to the argument of who's the greatest of all time that it creates hate and disdain within the argument. We will never get to that point with Steph Curry when we start talking about him in comparison to Michael Jordan. It will never be a visceral reaction when you hear somebody say Steph Curry is like Michael Jordan. But let them say LeBron James is the GOAT. Or put those two in the conversation when you have men in the barbershop or women talking to each other or men and women talking about this particular situation. LeBron James and Michael Jordan comparison will always be the one that we talk about. Outside of that, there is no more to talk about when it comes to more like Michael Jordan. And the only reason we have the reaction when it comes to LeBron is because he's done and reached feats that we've seen Michael Jordan do and never thought we would see anyone else be capable of reaching.
You're wrong. And the reason why you're wrong is because you're not answering the question appropriately. The question is more like Mike.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about who's better. I have LeBron James number 2 all time in the history of the sport. That's with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, that's with Bill Russell, that's with Kobe and Kevin Durant and the list goes, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, the whole bit. I have LeBron James number 2 all time.
Mm-hmm.
That's how profoundly great he is. And I want to say this. We got to call it like we see it. So when I'm critical of something that I see, I'm critical of what I see in that moment. But let me be very, very clear. As a man that's on the national airwaves every day, we going to miss LeBron when he's gone. This man has been an absolute treasure to the world of sports, and particularly the NBA, the professionalism, the dedication, the commitment to his conditioning, et cetera, his consistent level of greatness. I'm not casting any aspersions on this brother. I admire and respect the living hell out of him, even when I got to be critical of him. I know who I'm talking about. He's that profoundly great. Mad love and respect for him, and we will miss him when he's gone. But part of the reason he ain't number 1 is because he was never like Mike. He was never a killer. And that's where I'm going with all of this. Not just there, but that's where my starting point is. LeBron James had to mature up to that point. For the first several years of his career, there were times where we looked at him and we said he's scared to take those shots because he don't want to go to the foul line, because he was scared to go to the free throw line. Wasn't scared to take a jump shot. Wasn't scared to go one-on-one with anybody. Wasn't scared of any particular opponent. he had his own head issues inside his head. Getting to that free throw line, he didn't want that kind of smoke. And that's the one ailment to his career earlier on. And then when he lost in the playoffs to the Dallas Mavericks, when you got Jason Terry guarding you, for crying out loud, and you ain't taking advantage, and you go not one, not two, but 3 consecutive fourth quarters basically doing nothing. When y'all lost that NBA Finals, you got to take that into consideration. When you had to go to Miami to join with D. Wade and Bosh and Pat Riley to learn how to win, all of those things are things that you throw into the equation. Here's where Steph Curry is more like, not better, but more like MJ. Steph Curry is the greatest shooter God ever created. We applaud dudes that shoot 40% from three-point range a season. Do you know that Steph Curry has done that every single season he has played? The only season he didn't do it was the season he only played 5 games due to injury, okay? 5 games. That was it. Other than that, Steph Curry has shot better than 40% from three-point range every single year of his entire career. He is a career 41.8% three-point shooter. He's a career 24-point-per-game scorer. He's a 2-time league MVP. He's a 3-time champion. He went to 5 straight NBA Finals. And I know what LeBron did playing in the Eastern Conference, but Steph Curry has been that dude at 6'3", with unbelievable, incomparable range. And this is a guy, when you thought about going up against MJ, Swagoo, you were scared to death on how to defend him, okay? Steph Curry has you scared the second he goes past half court. The second he steps past half court, you're scared. And so what happens is that spreads the defense, and it makes every defense vulnerable to all the ancillary parts around Steph Curry, because you're opening up shots for the Jordan Pooles and the Toscano Andersons and the Gary Payton IIs, and the list goes on and on and on. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.